Welcome to FPL Cheat Sheet Briefing, the podcast that trusts the algorithm.
And today, we are fully dismantling everything you thought you knew about building a Gameweek 1 defense.
Yeah, we really are. I mean, the Gameweek 1 deadline is, rapidly approaching now? It's right around the corner?
The panic is setting in. I can feel it.
Oh, absolutely. The tinkering, the late-night drafts, the ones that look just completely deranged when you wake up in the morning.
Right, you wake up and wonder why you have 3 promoted defenders.
Exactly. So to stop that, just a quick bit of housekeeping. You need to join the FPL Cheat Sheet Mini League. The code is AM2IKL.
That's AM2IKL, right?
Yep, AM2IKL. You absolutely want to be in this league because our sponsor, Tifosi.se, they're giving away these amazing customized shirts to the winners.
And trust me, it's going to be a highly competitive league this year, especially if people actually, apply the data we're about to unpack today.
Yeah, no doubt. So here is today's mission. Today, it's 100% about the defense. We are going price bracket by price bracket using the FPL cheat sheet expected points model to build the ultimate backline.
Which means we're leaving gut feelings completely out of this.
Right. So for those of you listening, if you are looking at fplcheatsheet.com for players, I want you to filter by DF and sort the list by highest price on top. We're starting at the absolute ceiling.
But before we even look at a single name on that list, we have to establish the golden rule of the data.
Oh, the non-negotiable one.
Exactly. When you are looking at expected points, or XP as we call it, you absolutely must check the xStart percent column, the expected start percentage.
Okay, let's pause there for a second. Why is that specific metric the ultimate defense against all this preseason hype we're seeing on social media?
Because right now, your feed is just flooded with content creators hyping up some 4.5 million defender who scored a random 30-yard screamer in a friendly.
Against a third-tier team in a public park, right?
Right. And your gut feeling says, oh, I need this guy, look at that goal threat. But if the historical data and our start probability don't back it up, if his xStart is, say, 40%, it is a massive hard pass.
Because, if they don't start, the expected points are just an illusion.
Exactly. A player can't score points from the bench. And actually, it's worse than them just staying on the bench.
Oh, you're talking about the 1-minute cameo, the absolute worst nightmare.
It's devastating. The manager brings them on in the 89th minute. They don't even touch the ball. You get exactly 1 point, and this is the kicker. They block your first substitute from coming on.
Right, the guy sitting first on your bench who just kept a clean sheet and got 6 points. Just brutal.
So yeah, if xStart isn't there, we don't even look at the player.
Okay, I love that.
Okay, well, let's look at the very top of that sorted list you made us pull up. Because when I apply that filter, the first thing I see, it looks like a glitch in the game's code.
It really does. It induces visual shock.
It's the 8.0 million bracket. We're calling this the unicorn tier. And it's literally just Arsenal's Gabriel sitting there.
Oh, he's a massive 1.5 million above literally any other defender in the game. It's a canyon.
Right.
So how on earth does a predictive algorithm justify an 8.0 million price tag for a center back?
Well, when you see a defender priced the exact same as a premium attacking midfielder, your brain naturally rejects it. But this is exactly where we have to trust the historical data processing.
Because of what happened last season.
Right. Think back to the mechanics of last year. Gabriel started the year at 6.0 million, and by game week 38, dynamic pricing had pushed him all the way up to 7.3 million.
And he delivered, 209 points? A staggering 209 points, yeah. And the reason he ended up in almost every competitive manager's team wasn't just the Arsenal clean sheets. It was because even at 7.3 million, his points per million value was just completely warping the game.
He effectively broke the pricing matrix. He was giving you the output of an elite midfielder, but only taking up a defensive slot.
Exactly. So the game makers this season finally just threw their hands up and said, well, we have to price him out of the standard template.
They slapped a massive premium tax on it.
It did. But the algorithm completely validates it. When we drill down into our model's metrics, Gabriel boasts a 6.07 average expected points per game.
That's massive for a defender.
And for game week 1 specifically, when you factor in the opponent and home advantage, his XP actually spikes to 6.49.
Wow.
But here's a really critical part, and it ties right back to our golden rule. His xStart is 90%.
Where he is completely nailed on.
Right. That 10% variance is purely just the algorithmic margin of error for, last-minute illness or freak training injuries. Barring those, he's absolutely guaranteed to start.
Yeah. Let's talk about the mechanics of why his XP is so astronomically high, though. Because it's not just clean sheets, it's how Arsenal uses him.
Yeah, it's a combination of three really specific compounding factors. First, Arsenal's pressing trap is the most efficient in the league, so they concede the lowest expected goals, or XGA. That secures your baseline 4 points for the clean sheet.
Right.
Second, because they completely dominate possession, Gabriel completes a massive number of passes, which artificially inflates his standing in the bonus point system, the BPS.
Yeah, and for anyone relatively new to the really deep mechanics of FPL, the BPS is that underlying calculation that decides who gets the 3, 2, and 1 bonus points after a match.
Right, and pass completion, especially for center backs who see a lot of the ball, is a massive driver of that.
Okay, so that's 2 factors. What's the third?
The third is the set-piece architecture designed by Arsenal's coaching staff. They use a very specific blocking scheme on corners.
There's basically basketball screens.
Exactly. It's like a pick-and-roll screen that specifically isolates Gabriel against smaller zonal marking defenders. And the algorithm sees this recurring pattern. It knows that every single time Arsenal wins a corner, Gabriel's expected goals metric ticks upward.
So you combine the highest clean sheet probability with elite BPS accumulation, and then add striker-level set-piece threat.
Right, and suddenly 8.0 million is actually a mathematically fair price.
Okay, I understand the math in a vacuum. I do. But I have to push back a bit on the structural reality of this.
Budget mathematics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we don't play this game with an unlimited budget. We have 100 million. So can you genuinely afford to drop 8.0 million on a defender when the premium attackers are priced the way they are?
It's the ultimate Game Week 1 dilemma.
I mean, Erling Haaland is sitting at an eye-watering 15.5 million. Bruno Fernandes is 12 million. If I lock Gabriel into my squad, the downstream effect is just catastrophic. I feel like I'm going to have to field players from my local pub league in midfield just to balance the books.
And that's what we call structural sacrifice. The algorithm states very clearly that Gabriel is worth 8.0 million based on expected output. But he acts as a black hole for your budget.
He sucks up all the available funds.
Right. So including him forces you into a really rigid, polarized squad structure. You're immediately opting out of those mid-priced 7.5 to 8.5 million midfielders who traditionally offer, huge explosive haul potential.
And you're probably downgrading your second striker to some guy who only gets 10 minutes off the bench.
Exactly. It's basically a binary choice. You either build a heavily skewed, big-at-the-back structure, anchor it with Gabriel, and pray for a 0-0 draw every weekend.
Or you spread that 8.2 million across 2 positions to afford the heavy-hitting attackers.
Yeah.
And honestly, given the explosive potential of someone like Haaland, I think most managers are going to look for an alternative to Gabriel.
Which means we have to pivot.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to look down the price list to find premium defenders who offer high xStart and decent XP, but won't completely bankrupt us. Which brings us to the 6.5 million bracket.
Historically, this is the bracket where you find the bedrock premium defenders, right? The stalwarts from the title contending teams.
Normally, yes. But looking at the algorithm's projections for Game Week 1 this year, it doesn't look like a tier of reliable stalwarts. It looks like a tactical casualty ward.
There is so much managerial chaos impacting the data down here.
Well, let's start with the most straightforward casualty. Jurrien Timber at Arsenal.
Right. Our sources indicate Timber is out injured. He's sitting at 6.5 million, which would normally make him a really intriguing, slightly cheaper route into that Arsenal defense, but his xStart is just flat 0.
So that instantly narrows the premium pool, which leaves us staring at the Liverpool rock, Virgil van Dijk.
Priced at 6.5 million. And at first glance, he feels like the warm, comforting blanket of FPL.
He really does. He's the definition of a known quantity. He scored 175 points last season.
However, there is a massive new variable that the algorithm is trying to process here. Liverpool has a new manager, Andoni Iraola.
Let's dive into Iraola's system, because that changes the entire calculus for Liverpool defenders. He doesn't play the same controlled, possession-heavy game that Klopp perfected.
Not at all. Iraola demands this frantic, ultra-high pressing system. It is incredibly vertically aggressive.
And that leaves the center backs exposed, right?
Massive expanses of space behind them, yeah. If the initial midfield press gets bypassed, Virgil is left sprinting back toward his own goal.
So what does the model say?
The model still gives Virgil a 90% start under Iraola because, you simply do not bench a defender of his caliber. He guarantees minutes, and he still provides that aerial threat on corners. But his expected points average has recalibrated down to 4.37.
Okay, 4.37 XP. Give us some context for that number. Is that considered elite for a 6.5 million investment?
It's solid, but it definitely falls short of elite. When you're paying 6.5 million, you really want an XP pushing much closer to 5.0.
So his XP is suppressed directly because of Iraola's tactics.
Exactly. The algorithm simulates thousands of matches against Premier League opposition, and it finds that Liverpool's new high line is just significantly more vulnerable to counterattacks. Their clean sheet probability has dropped.
So you're basically paying a premium tax for the name on the back of the shirt and the guaranteed 90 minutes.
Right, but the mathematical upside is likely going to be matched or even exceeded by much cheaper players and better defensive systems.
That makes perfect sense. The system dictates the ceiling, not just the player's individual talent. But here is where it gets incredibly tricky. Because sitting right next to Virgil in this 6.5 million bracket is a Manchester City defender, O'Reilly.
Ah, yes.
Now, if I just look at the raw historical spreadsheet from last season, O'Reilly is an absolute monster. He had a 5.23 average XP. He brought in 160 points. Purely based on those numbers, he looks like the obvious explosive alternative to a slightly declining Liverpool defense.
And if you base your Game Week 1 squad purely on last year's raw totals, you are walking blindfolded into a massive trap.
This goes back to the golden rule.
Exactly. This is precisely why we utilize a forward-looking predictive model and apply that golden rule of xStart percentage. Manchester City has undergone a seismic shift, Pep Guardiola has departed, and Enzo Maresca has taken the reins.
And Maresca is not just a Guardiola clone, right? Even though he worked under him. He has his own very rigid ideas about how a backline should operate.
Highly rigid. Maresca's tactical philosophy relies really heavily on inverted fullbacks who step into the midfield to create a box formation.
Right.
But he rotates those profiles aggressively based on the specific pressing structure of the opponent they're facing that weekend. Because of this managerial shift and just the extreme tactical fluidity Maresca demands, our algorithm has plummeted O'Reilly's expected start percentage all the way down to 53%.
53%. That is terrifying for a 6.5 million heavy asset. I was going to compare it to playing roulette blindfolded, but it's honestly worse than that. It's like playing Russian roulette with your overall rank.
It really is.
The potential payout is undeniably huge. We know City will dominate possession and keep clean sheets against lower half opposition. But the risk of hitting a zero is fundamentally incompatible with the price tag.
A 53% start entirely invalidates his 5.23 expected points. You cannot multiply a high output by a coin flip probability and expect to build a stable FPL foundation.
Because if O'Reilly doesn't play, you get 0 points, and you have 6.5 million sitting dead on your bench while your rivals are scoring points.
Right. Until Enzo Maresca shows his hand in competitive Premier League fixtures, and until the algorithm has a large enough sample size to confidently predict his preferred starting 11, O'Reilly is basically a radioactive asset.
Do not touch him. Okay, so the 6.5 million bracket is essentially a wasteland of tactical transition and injury, which naturally forces us to look slightly cheaper, dropping down to the 6.0 million bracket. We are on the hunt for stability here.
And spoiler alert, we're going to find more City rotation headaches here too.
Oh, great. But we also going to dissect some massive transfer gambles and finally uncover our very first nailed-on lock of the season.
Let's start by addressing a massive ripple effect in the data, though, which ties back to our earlier discussion about Arsenal.
Okay.
We noted that Timber is injured, but our sources show another critical absence at Arsenal in this 6.0 million bracket. William Saliba is also injured.
Oh, wow. Okay, that forces me to ask a vital question about our 8.0 million unicorn, Gabriel. If you were one of those managers who actually decided to break their budget for Gabriel, what does Saliba's absence do to his value?
It's a great question.
Because center-back partnerships aren't just two isolated players.
Yeah.
Right? They're a symbiotic unit. It's like removing a load-bearing pillar from a suspension bridge. Saliba is the sweeping cover that allows Gabriel to be aggressive and step out of the line to win tackles. So does losing that elite partner drag Gabriel's XP down.
It is an incredibly astute observation, and it really highlights why the FPL cheat sheet model evaluates team defensive structures holistically. The algorithm absolutely accounts for this loss.
So does he draw?
Arsenal's overall clean sheet probability does dip slightly in the simulations without Saliba's recovery pace back there. However, Gabriel's underlying individual metrics, his immense set-piece threat, and his baseline bonus point accumulation from passing out from the back remain robust enough to keep his overall XP at an elite level.
So he's still worth the 8.0 meter if you can afford him.
Yes, but you are correct that it introduces an element of fragility. It shows the inherent risk of banking 8.0 million on a single point of failure in a defense.
Right. Speaking of fragility, let's talk about the Manchester City assets sitting in the 6.0 million bracket. We have Guéhi with a massive 4.82 projected XP, and Matthias Nunes showing a 4.08 XP.
And we can basically address them both simultaneously because the verdict is identical to the one we handed down on O'Reilly.
The Maresca rotation risk.
Exactly. They both suffer from it. The model currently projects both Guéhi and Nunes at a 53% start.
So it's another coin flip.
It is entirely prohibitive. If either Guéhi or Nunes emerges as a nailed-on 90-minute starter under Maresca over the first month of the season, their price and their underlying XP instantly elevate them to must-have status.
But right now,
in Game Week 1, you must wait. Let the model ingest actual Premier League data before you invest. Let someone else in your mini-league take the zero.
I love that philosophy. Let someone else fall on the sword of early season variance. Let them take the zero. Okay, so if we're avoiding the city roulette wheel entirely, we need to look at the transfer market. There's been some fascinating movement involving 6.0 million defenders. Let's start with Maxence Lacroix, who has moved from Crystal Palace to Chelsea.
This is a data point the algorithm finds highly compelling. Let's look at his historical baseline. Lacroix scored 154 points last year at Palace. He generated 4.64 XP. Crucially, the model assigns him a 90% start at his new club.
But Chelsea is under new management as well. Xabi Alonso has made his return to the Premier League to take over at Stamford Bridge. How does Alonso's system impact Lacroix's output?
It is a perfect tactical marriage. Alonso famously utilizes a 3-4-2-1 system.
Yay.
And he relies heavily on wide center backs who are comfortable carrying the ball into the midfield and executing line-breaking passes. Lacroix excelled at exactly that profile at Palace.
So he just slots right in?
The model projects him stepping straight into the right-sided center back role in Alonso's back three. He delivered consistently in a mid-table Palace team, and now he is anchored in a Chelsea system that theoretically dictates more possession and has a higher ceiling for clean sheets.
It's always a gamble when a player changes clubs and has to adapt to a new manager's philosophy, but the underlying tactical fit here is flashing bright green. On the other hand, though, we have another transfer in this bracket that looks far more perilous. Marco Senesi, who moved from Bournemouth to Tottenham.
Senesi is a textbook example of why context matters just as much as raw output.
Because his numbers look good.
He had a brilliant individual season at Bournemouth, which is why his baseline XP sits at a very healthy 4.37. But there are two glaring red flags in the algorithmic projection. First, Tottenham were structurally disastrous defensively last year.
Oh, they were awful. That insanely high defensive line.
Right. They were routinely carved open by simple balls over the top. Now, they have made defensive signings, but it is a massive unknown whether the manager has actually fixed the structural vulnerability.
And the second red flag.
The xStart. Senesi's expected start percentage is currently languishing at 40%.
Ouch.
The model simply does not have enough evidence to project that he walks straight into that Spurs starting lineup ahead of their established center backs.
A 40% start for 6.0 million is a definitive do not touch for Game Week 1.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have that much money tied up in a player who is more likely to sit on the bench than play. So we've navigated the Arsenal injuries, the City Roulette, and the polarizing transfer gambles. That brings us finally to the lock of the 6.0 million bracket. The guy you can put in your squad, hit save, and forget about for the next 10 weeks.
James Tarkowski at Everton.
Yes.
Tarkowski is the safest, most algorithmically sound 6.0 million pick on the entire board. Let's look at the raw numbers first. 4.32 XP, 170 total points last season, and an immovable 90% start.
Let's actually explain exactly why Tarkowski is such a points magnet, because it goes back to that FPL bonus point system we mentioned earlier. He is an absolute monster when it comes to what we call DEFCON, or defensive contributions.
Defensive contributions encompass clearances, blocks, and interceptions. In the FPL bonus point system, accumulating these actions steadily builds a player's baseline score.
And Sean Dyche's tactical system at Everton is basically built for this.
It's a rigid low block. They intentionally invite pressure, pack the penalty area, and force the opposition to swing crosses in. Tarkowski is an elite aerial defender. He just sits in the middle of that penalty area and heads the ball away all afternoon.
And every clearance is a BPS point.
Exactly. So even in a game where Everton draws 0-0, Tarkowski is almost guaranteed to walk away with maximum bonus points because his defensive contribution metrics are off the charts compared to, say, a center back at a possession-heavy team who might only make 2 tackles all game.
Exactly. You know exactly what you're getting with a Sean Dyche defense. There is no new manager syndrome to worry about. There is no transfer adaptation period. Everton is historically a highly organized defensive unit, and Tarkowski is the focal point.
It is pure algorithmic consistency. He is the bedrock you can build a riskier, more explosive squad around.
I completely agree. Tarkowski provides the safety net. But if we want to find real value, the kind of surplus value that frees up the millions required to afford Haaland up top, we need to dip into the mid-priced brackets.
We need to capitalize on the Arsenal injuries and the Palace transfers we've just been dissecting.
Exactly. Which brings us to the 5.5 million bracket. And I have to say, looking at the sheer volume of names here, it is a massive mid-priced minefield. You have to tread incredibly carefully here.
It is the most volatile bracket in the game. It is filled with traps, but it also contains the most glaring opportunity on the board, which takes us right back to our analysis of Arsenal. We know Saliba is out. We know Timber is injured. This tactical vacuum elevates Ricardo Calafiori as the absolute best value route into that elite Arsenal defense.
Calafiori is sitting at 5.5 million with a 4.51 expected points projection and a 90% start. I mean, that is a massive differential in price compared to Gabriel at 8.0 meters for access to the exact same clean sheet probability.
The model aggressively projects Calafiori to absorb those vacant minutes. Getting a 90% expected minute share in the league's most robust defensive unit for only 5.5 million is absolute gold dust.
And his XP isn't just from clean sheets, right?
No, it's high because he operates as an attacking inverted fullback when Arsenal has the ball. That allows him to accumulate key passes and assist potential.
But I want to inject a quick word of caution here because the FPL community is a massive echo chamber. When injuries happen at a big club, content creators immediately start hyping up the cheapest possible bench players, just assuming they'll suddenly play 90 minutes. I'm seeing a lot of buzz around Hincapié and Mascara online right now.
And this is where the algorithm saves you from yourself. A strict warning based on the data, ignore that buzz.
Ignored completely.
Hincapié is sitting at a 34% xStart in our model. Mascara is not projected to take the primary spot. He's viewed purely as rotational depth. Do not touch them. You're buying into a narrative, not a mathematical probability. Calafiori is the algorithmic play.
What about Ben White? He's also sitting in this 5.5 million bracket, and historically he's been a stalwart for Arsenal.
White is a fascinating case study in how the model updates based on preseason tactical shifts. He has a 3.9 XP, which is decent, but his xStart has dipped to 69%.
So his minutes aren't safe anymore.
Arteta has been experimenting with different profiles on that right side, and White's minute security is just no longer absolute. Calafiori offers significantly higher XP and much more minute security, according to the algorithm.
Okay, while we're navigating this 5.5 million minefield, let's look back at Manchester City for a second. Because I know there are managers listening who simply cannot stomach the idea of going into Game Week 1 without defensive coverage from the reigning champions. If a manager absolutely must have a City defender, is there anyone in this bracket who justifies the risk?
If you are determined to gamble on Enzo Maresca's tactical roulette wheel, the only justifiable risks are located right in the specific bracket. Gvardiol has a 4.75 XP, which is phenomenal attacking upside for a defender, and his xStart is slightly better at 71%.
And Rúben Dias.
Dias is sitting at a 4.28 XP with a 78% xStart.
So they're marginally safer than the 53% coin flips we saw at the 6.0 and 6.5 million marks, but they still fall well short of the 90% locks we demand for a stable foundation.
Exactly. It's a calculated risk, but a risk nonetheless. A 71% start probability means there's a roughly 1 in 3 chance Gvardiol doesn't start. Are you comfortable with those odds for 5.5 million?
I wouldn't be.
The model suggests you shouldn't be either.
If we want actual safety in the 5.5 million bracket, where does the model point us?
The algorithm highlights a few rapid-fire solid starters, all boasting that crucial 90% to start. You have Adrian Trufer at Bournemouth generating a 4.0 XP.
Okay.
You have Nathan Collins at Brentford with a 3.84 XP, and Murillo at Nottingham Forest also with a 3.84 XP.
Those are your solid, reliable, low-stress picks. They won't win you the week, but they definitely won't lose it for you either. But I want to circle back to a team we mentioned earlier, Crystal Palace, because Lacroix left for Chelsea, which leaves a massive structural hole in their defense. But we have Daniel Munoz sitting right here at 5.5 million with a 4.21 XP.
Palace is a highly intriguing data set. Despite losing Lacroix, their underlying defensive metrics suggest they will remain a really sound unit under their current management. Munoz is particularly valuable because of his specific role.
He plays incredibly high at the pitch.
Right. He operates as a wingback, not a traditional fullback. This means his average position is significantly higher. He provides a great route into Palace's clean sheets, but he carries substantial attacking upside in the form of crosses and late runs into the box.
A wingback getting clean sheet points is essentially the holy grail of FPL defenders. But before anyone aggressively clicks the transfer in button on Munoz, we really need to address the darker side of this bracket, the do not touch list.
It's a long list.
It is, because there are some huge high-profile names sitting at 5.5 million that are going to absolutely trap casual managers who aren't looking at the FPL cheat sheet data.
The algorithm is practically screaming at us to avoid certain players, primarily due to catastrophic xStart percentages or terrible underlying structural data. I want everyone listening to mentally cross these names off their shortlist right now.
Give it to us.
Reece James at Chelsea, Palestra at Chelsea, Milinkovic at Nottingham Forest, Pedro Porro at Tottenham, Milos Kerkez and Jeremy Frimpong at Liverpool, Ousmane Diomande at Forest, Ronald Araujo at Liverpool.
I mean, that is a staggering list of talent. Let's dissect a few of those crabs to explain the why behind the algorithm's warning. Pedro Porro at 5.5 million is going to lure in tens of thousands of managers based on his attacking returns last year. He takes shots, he gets forward. Why is he a trap?
Because of the structural frailty of Tottenham that we discussed with Senesi, Porro is a phenomenal attacking asset, but he plays in a defensive line that the model expects to concede goals at an alarming rate.
So the clean sheets just won't be there.
Right. His attacking returns are mathematically unlikely to offset the minus points from losing clean sheets and conceding 2 or more goals a game. His XP is just dragged down by the system he plays in.
And what about Reece James? We all know the name, we all know the upside when he actually plays.
When he plays is the entire problem. The model processes biomechanical injury history. James simply cannot sustain a 90-minute load over consecutive weeks without breaking down. The algorithm reflects that instability with a horrific xStart percentage. Do not get lured in by the Chelsea badge.
Okay, so Munoz looks like the premium pick at 5.5 million if you want that Palace coverage. But here is the ultimate question I have to ask you. Why on earth would I spend 5.5 million on Munoz when I'm looking ahead at the data for the 5.0 million bracket and I see a massive hidden gem sitting right there in the exact same defense for a fraction of the cost?
You are anticipating the algorithm perfectly. This brings us down to the 5.0 million bracket, which is historically the home of the differentials. And you're absolutely right. There is one player here who stands out as a genuine data-driven cheat code.
I am staring right at him on the spreadsheet. It's Canvit at Crystal Palace.
Let's break down the mechanics of why the algorithm loves this player, because the data is staggering. Canvote has an elite 4.27 expected points projection. To put that in perspective, that is a higher expected output than Munoz, who costs $500,000 more.
How does a 5.0 million player project higher than a 5.5 million wingback in the exact same team?
It comes down to underlying efficiency and opportunity. Canvote scored 72 points in just 14 starts last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The algorithm recognizes that points per minute ratio as elite. And with Lacroix transferring to Chelsea, a massive vacuum has opened up in the center of that Palace defense. The model project that Canvote steps directly into that central defensive role. Because of that clear path to minutes, the model assigns him a 90% start.
And here is where we get into the metagame of FPL, the concept of a differential. For those unaware, a differential is a player with very low ownership across the game. If a highly owned player scores, your rank doesn't move because everyone else has him. But if a differential scores, you rocket up the overall rankings. I am looking at the ownership disparity right now. Munoz, at 5.5 million, is sitting at around 11% ownership. People know the name. They saw the wingback potential.
Well, a Canvote.
Canvote at 5.0 million with a higher XP and a guaranteed starting spot. He is only 0.6% owned. Less than 1% of the millions of managers playing this game have him in their squad.
That is the absolute definition of a data-driven cheat code. You are securing premium underlying statistics at a budget price with zero ownership bloat.
It's massive.
If Canvote keeps a clean sheet and picks up a bonus point in Game Week 1, you are gaining rank on 99.4% of the global player base. And I should also mention, just to be thorough, that Chris Richards is sitting there as a solid alternative at Palace. He has a 4.18 XP and also boasts a 90% start.
Just in case Canvote doesn't fit someone's eye test.
Right. Richards is viable, though the algorithm mathematically prefers Canvote's baseline output.
Okay, I absolutely love a good differential. It's what makes the game fun. What about Brighton? I see Matt Swifer, WEFer, sitting here at 5.0 million with a really strong 3.95 XP. Brighton usually starts season strongly. That looks incredibly tempting.
The model advises extreme caution with Brighton right now. Yes, Weifer's XP looks solid on the surface, but his xStart is only 59%.
Why is it so low?
If we zoom out and look at the macro environment at Brighton, they have just orchestrated a massive influx of new defensive signings. We're talking about Vuskovic, Kadioglu, Svoboda, Lewis Dunk is still there, the Kuiper. It is an incredibly crowded, chaotic backline.
It's traffic jam in defense. You have 5 players trying to merge into 2 available lanes.
Exactly. When you have that much rotation potential, it destroys xStart percentages across the board.
Yeah.
If anyone gets a guaranteed spot out of that mess, the model slightly figures Vuskovic, but honestly, the data is way too muddy right now.
So avoid it.
The manager is going to use the first month of the season as a tactical experiment. You do not want to spend $5.0 million on a player who gets benched because the manager wanted to try a different left-sided combination against a specific opponent. Avoid the Brighton traffic jam entirely.
Fair enough. Let's look further north then. Let's talk about Sunderland, one of the newly promoted sides. Dan Ballard is sitting at $5.0 million with a 3.9 XP and a rock-solid 90% start.
Ballard is a fantastic, steady differential. What makes him jump off the page isn't just his individual XP, but the context of the opening schedule.
The fixture difficulty ratings.
Right. The FDR Sunderland opens the season with Ipswich away and then Fulham at home. For a promoted team carrying defensive momentum from the championship, those are prime, low XGA opportunities for early clean sheets. And Ballard is their nailed-on bedrock at the back. He will play every minute of those fixtures.
I'm also seeing a couple of Newcastle names in this bracket. Sven Botman and Malik Tiao both have good XP projections, both have less than 2% ownership. On paper, that screams differential opportunity to me. Newcastle historically has a strong home defense.
It does look appealing on the surface, but this is exactly where we have to balance the raw individual XP with the macro environmental changes to the team. Newcastle has suffered a catastrophic structural loss. They have lost Bruno Guimaraes and Sandro Tonali from their midfield.
Oh, wow. That is massive. That completely destroys their defensive shield.
It is the most important tactical variable in their projection. To explain the mechanics of this, Tonali and Guimaraes operated as a highly aggressive double pivot. They function as a seawall, breaking up opposition attacks, cutting off passing lanes into the half spaces, and winning the ball back before it ever reached the defensive line.
So without them, that seawall is just gone. Opposition attackers are going to be able to run directly at Botman and Thiaw in isolated one-on-one situations.
Exactly. So even if Botman is a great individual defender, his expected points drop because the volume of high-quality chances he has to defend the expected goals against is going to skyrocket without that midfield protection. You're removing the engine room that protects that back four.
And their fixtures aren't great either, are they?
No. Run their opening fixtures through the model. They have Liverpool at home, followed by Tottenham away. Those are brutal, high-octane attacking opponents to face when your defense just lost its primary midfield enforcers.
The risk of minus points from goals conceded vastly outweighs the differential upside of their low ownership. Okay, so the algorithm definitively fades Newcastle. Let's talk about the Manchester United conundrum. We've got Harry Maguire and Diogo Dalot both sitting in this 5.6 million bracket.
The model expects both of them to start, giving them a 90% start. Maguire has a 3.41 XP, while Dalot is sitting at 3.36 XP.
Are they viable?
They are technically viable assets. Della offers some attacking width, which is always valuable. Maguire, as we discussed with Tarkowski, has genuine goal threat from set pieces and accumulates clearances. But with Maguire specifically, you are always factoring in the unquantifiable risk of catastrophic clean sheet ruining mistakes.
Right.
The model captures his average output over a massive sample size, but his game-to-game variance is incredibly wild.
Right. He is the kind of player who can score a bullet header from a corner in the 10th minute, looking like an absolute genius pick, and then give away a clumsy penalty in the 80th minute, wiping out his clean sheet and his bonus points in one fell swoop. It's a roller coaster ride that most FPL managers just don't have the stomach for.
It's too volatile.
But really, looking at the data, my ultimate question is, why on earth would you pay $5 million for coverage in Manchester United's defense when the algorithm has found a backdoor into Michael Carrick's backline for only $4.5 million?
And with that question, we seamlessly transition into what is arguably the most important structural bracket of the entire FPL game, the 4.5 million enablers.
It is the most important bracket.
And you are absolutely right. The algorithm has identified the ultimate United cheat code down here, Luke Shaw.
Luke Shaw sitting at 4.5 million just feels like a clerical error by the game makers.
It represents incredible algorithmic value. He has a 2.93 expected points average, but the vital overarching statistic is the 90% start.
But what about his fitness? Because the historical concern with Shaw is always that he gets injured.
True, but the current biometric and preseason data projects he is fully fit to start the campaign. If he is on the pitch, he is the absolute cheapest route into a top-half possession-dominant defense under Michael Carrick.
What about Mazraoui? I see him here at 4.5 million too.
Do not be tempted. He is trapped at a 34% start due to rotation. Shaw is the definitive lock.
Okay, let's talk about the underlying philosophy of this 4.5 million bracket. Because I like to think of these players as the load-bearing structural beams of a house.
I like that analogy.
They aren't flashy. You don't invite people over to look at your structural beams. They aren't going to make the weekend highlight reel with a 30-yard screamer. But without them, without this solid, cheap, reliable foundation, the entire house just collapses. You simply cannot afford to build the luxury penthouse on top. You cannot have Haaland, Salah, and Gabriel if you do not ruthlessly nail your 4.5 million enablers. They mathematically allow the rest of your squad to exist.
That is a perfect mechanical analogy. The entire purpose of the 4.5-meter slot is to maximize xStart and baseline XP, specifically to free up capital for the premium brackets. But because literally every FPL manager goes shopping in this specific bracket to balance their books, the game makers intentionally litter it with traps.
Let's expose those traps. Because I see Ryan Sessegnon at Fulham sitting right here with a mouth-watering 3.99 XP. That's practically a 5.5 million expected output, but he is priced at 4.5 million. Why shouldn't I just lock him into my squad right now and take the value?
Because you must obey the golden rule. Look past the XP and look at the xStart. It is 53%.
Ah, there it is.
Sessegnon has a massive, highly documented rotation and injury risk profile. The algorithmic model knows that when he plays, his attacking positioning means he produces points. But it also processes the historical reality that he rarely, if ever, strings together consistent 90-minute appearances.
You cannot rely on a structural beam that only holds weight 50% of the time.
Exactly. It's a massive trap.
What about Axel Disasi at Chelsea? He's sitting there with a 3.63 XP. That looks like a great budget route into Xabi Alonso's new defense.
That one is even worse. Disasi currently has a terrifying 0% start in the model.
0.
He does not fit Alonso's tactical profile for a ball-playing wide center back. Yeah. Do not get lured in by the Chelsea badge next to a cheap price tag or the high theoretical XP based on last year's minutes. If they do not play, they score 0. It's binary.
So who are the actual foundation stones? If we strip away the noise and the traps, who are the FPL cheat sheet top 4.5 million picks that guarantee starts and actually deliver a baseline of points?
The algorithm highlights 6 absolute standout enablers in this bracket. These are the players who guarantee 90% expected starts combined with the highest expected points output available at this price point. I strongly suggest making notes here.
Let's hear some.
Number 1 on the algorithmic rank, Ola Aina at Nottingham Forest. He boasts a 3.53 XP. He gets forward, he puts crosses in, and his minutes are highly secure.
Solid. Number 2.
Number 2 is Tyrick Mitchell at Crystal Palace with a 3.51 XP. We spent a lot of time praising CanBot at 5.0 meters, but if your budget structure is so tight that you absolutely must shave off that 0.5 meter, Mitchell is the cheapest viable route into Palace's defensive unit.
Good to know.
Number 3 is Vitaly Mykolenko at Everton with a 3.13 XP. Pair him with Tarkowski and you have an incredible budget-friendly double-up into Sean Dyche's low-block defensive system.
Oh, that's a brilliant pairing.
Number 4 is Coyote at Brentford, sitting at 3.05 XP. Number 5 is Joe Rodon at Leeds, newly promoted but highly rated defensively with a 3.02 XP. Okay. And rounding out the top 6 enablers is Ezri Konsa at Aston Villa with a 2.98 XP. Or, if you prefer a slightly different profile in the same defense, his teammate Matty Cash is sitting right behind him at 2.91 XP.
Those are the guys you plug into your squad, hit save, and honestly, you don't even think about them again until you play your wild card in Gameweek 6 or 7. They just quietly tick along, delivering 2 to 6 points a week, enabling your premiums to shine. But what if you are truly, hopelessly desperate?
The basement.
Yes. What if you have gone so incredibly heavy up top? Say you have forced Haaland, Salah, and Saka into your team, and you need to scrape the absolute bottom of the barrel just to field a legal squad. That forces us to look at the 4.0 million bracket. pure bench fodder.
It is highly important to bring everyone back to earth when discussing this bracket. The reality of the 4.0 million price point is stark and often really disappointing.
It's barren down there.
The only nailed 90% start players at this price point in the entire FPL game are from the newly promoted teams: Coventry, Ipswich, and Hull.
So, mechanically speaking, if I am forced to buy a 4.0 million defender from a newly promoted team, a team that the predictive models likely expect to concede a high volume of goals against Premier League opposition, how do I utilize them without destroying my overall rank? If one of my starting defenders gets injured in the warm-up, and my 4.0 million promoted defender comes off my bench in an away game against Manchester City and scores -1 point because they conceded 5 goals, that is a rank-destroying disaster.
That scenario is exactly why you have to view them purely as mathematical enablers, not as active football players.
Okay, what does that mean in practice?
You buy them with the strict, unwavering intention of permanently sitting one or maybe two of them on the end of your bench every single week. They exist in your squad solely to free up that 0.5 or 1.0 million in cash that allows you to upgrade your starting 11. You do not expect them to play. You actively hope they never have to play.
They are essentially a placeholder for cash. Unless, I'm looking at the algorithm's deep data here, and there's a specific exploit. There's a mathematical hack in the data regarding Coventry City.
Ah, yes. The Gameweek 2 hack. This is a perfect example of where looking ahead at fixture sequencing pays massive dividends. The absolute best mathematical picks in this basement bracket are listed as Thomas or Milan van Ewijk from Coventry. Both are priced at 4.0 million, both project at a 2.39 XP, and both are nailed on at a 90% stack start.
So what is the actual hack? How do we exploit this?
The tactical strategy is this. You bring one of them into your squad for Game Week 1 as your bench enabler, but you plan your entire chip strategy around playing your bench boost chip in Game Week 2.
For the uninitiated, the bench boost chip is a one-time use power-up that allows the points from all 4 players on your bench to count toward your weekly total rather than just your starting 11.
Exactly. Get why the algorithm loves doing it early here. The fixture model shows Coventry facing Hull City at home in Game Week 2.
Oh, wow.
That is a highly probable clean sheet scenario. You have 2 newly promoted teams, both likely to play conservatively, facing off in Coventry. You are getting an incredibly high probability of 6 points a clean sheet from a 4.0 million player.
That's genius.
You harvest those points with the bench boost chip early, banking the value, and then you just leave that Coventry defender on your bench for the rest of the foreseeable future, knowing they have already delivered maximum utility.
That is genuinely brilliant. You're extracting maximum point value at the absolute lowest financial cost, right at the start of the season when everyone else is scrambling and saving their chips. We have systematically covered every single defensive bracket, all the way from the 8.0 million unicorn of Gabriel down to the 4.0 million bench fodder of Coventry City. This has been a massive, comprehensive deep dive into the source material.
It has been extensive, but necessary. And if I can leave you with a final provocative thought as you finalize your structures and lock in your squads before that Game Week 1 deadline, building a defense isn't about chasing the highest possible theoretical points on a piece of paper. It is an exercise in ruthlessly mitigating risks.
Risk mitigation is everything.
An 8 million defender is a massive risk to your overall budget structure. A 53% expected start from a premium Manchester City defender is a massive risk to your weekly point output. Remember the fundamental truth of the model. If a player isn't physically on the pitch, their XP is 0. Let the expected start percentage dictate your foundation. Do not build your team on preseason hype, do not build it on club badges, and certainly do not build it on gut feeling.
Absolutely. The math simply doesn't lie, and the algorithm has given us the definitive roadmap through the chaos. Stick to the underlying data, avoid the tactical rotation traps, and build that solid, unshakable foundation for your squad. No more spreadsheets, just cheat sheet.